Livers, nighttime chats with Matcha. I actually really like these because I haven't been getting time to do lives during the day. I just don't have time or don't feel inspired or lots of different things. So this one's going to be a little bit of a follow on from the talk I did earlier, which is about naked women's bodies and liberation and my own little stories. And I'm sharing these for multiple reasons so people can get to know me a bit more. Um, and I just feel like it's also in my Irish tradition to tell story. It's definitely a natural way of holding space is to tell story. And I don't, if I'm in a workspace, because I don't see Instagram as a workspace, honestly. It's more of a hangout space. I obviously promote stuff here and whatever, but I use it for a different purpose. It's not like my shop or something. Yeah, it's not like exactly where I work. It's a little bit like of my home casual self and then my professional self. So it's a blend of two places. So I'm going to explain as well why I'm here at this hour of the night for those who are on my kind of timeline, which is somewhere around 12:30 at night. So I was in bed and I was trying to go to sleep, and that was not happening for me. And the reason why it's not happening is my energy surges are very easily, I'm very easily have can get tilted in my cycle of sleep, and that can occur for multiple reasons. If you've been listening to me a while, that can happen for loads of reasons. But why I'm noticing I'm having them, because I've already done, this is the second one lately, hello, is because, and for anyone that's never been here before, my dog is on the couch with me snoring all sorts of noises. He's very old. So it's because I injured my back 7 months ago, quite badly, like really badly. And it's not the first time I've injured my back very badly. I actually injured my back very badly over 12 years ago as well. So it's been quite an interesting journey for me with that, because it's taught me a lot of things and I've become a much better practitioner and healer, I suppose, because of it. And I just learned a lot. Injuries teach you a lot, especially if you're in the field of helping people's bodies and specifically women's bodies. So my back is 7 months in, and what's happening is I'm feeling really good the last few weeks. After a really tough 7 months, and before that it was pretty tough as well. But like what's happening is I'm getting more energy spikes, and then because obviously I'm not fully active because I can't be, and I'll explain something like today I went to the city, I walked for 1 hour with stops, but that 1 hour of walking in the city, by like 15 minutes in, I already had like a really intense pain. I have pain 24/7, but I had really intense pain. And then by the time I got back to my car, my right buttock completely locked. So like that's kind of like my standard of activity, right? Like, so if you're seeing any of my videos that are dancey or whatever, they're just not from any time recently. Um so what happens is if I'm getting an energy surge in my body because there is a healing and my body's feeling better, but what's happening is my physical body hasn't been able to get that energy out. So that's why some people do suffer from, say, insomnia or restless nights going to sleep, is because their level, maybe they were sitting all day in a chair, or their brain was in front of a laptop, or yeah, they were just not, they did some walking, but they weren't really active, like their whole body. And for me, being an ADHD person, a neurodiverse person, like I know what's the best for my body. It's probably exactly why I've, been a horsey person all my life. I, spend a lot of time in nature, but why I dance a lot, why I do yoga, why I do lots of different physical activity. It just suits my body the best, and I feel the best because of it. And it was interesting. Someone said to me recently about my age, and they said, like, you look 10 years younger than you are. And I was like, thank you. I do often get that. Sometimes I look like absolute shit, and it's because my energy is totally out, and it's just like, it's so fascinating watching that. It's like I age. Like last year I really found like my sister actually said it to me. She was like, I didn't want to say it to you then. She said to me recently, I didn't want to say it to you, but like last year you looked like you aged 10 years. I was like, yeah, it was a stressful time. It was a really stressful time. So stress for me, I know is a real, like it slices me in two basically. And I can bounce back from those things. So it's really nice to feel more youthful. And I was contemplating that about we're going to get to the naked women bodies in a while, right? Like I'm getting there. But what happened was, and it kind of leads into this, is that like I actually was like, I was thinking, okay, what is my top reasons for being... I was with another women's gathering a few weeks ago, and like multiple of them were like, you do not have any wrinkles. You do not have any wrinkles. Why don't you have any wrinkles? Like, what is wrong with you? You don't even have makeup on, And I was like, well, I know why. I know why. Like, I can tell you why. I can tell you why. But no, most people don't want to hear the reasons. And like, there's a lot of reasons. But I was thinking of like, if I could pick three reasons for that, I would say that movement is definitely one, but there's a balance. Like you can't just move. There's like a whole type of movement or amount of movement, or it's complicated. And movement is definitely one. Food is another. And in my case, so going back to movement, in my case, I have a very big range of movement in my life, for my life. And I was always a very moving person. Yeah. And food being for me mainly whole foods, plant-based, organic foods, and yeah, lots of good vegetable and fruits and natural foods, and I'm gonna say not supplements. Like that's not why I have a young youth look, because that's not been a huge factor in my life. Of course, it has been a factor at times for multiple reasons, but it's not something like I'm really into. So that's that. And then the one that's like shouting at me now is water. And hydration. It's like people, there's actually so many coming to my mind, but like they're the ones that you don't have to be woo-woo to be healthy. I could say like loads of other things, but like if you actually drink enough water and good water, you move and take care of yourself through your movement, and you eat well, and my view of well, not everyone else's view of well, then youth will be on your side. Now there's loads of other factors to that, but I'm just going to leave those there because this is not exactly why I came on. Tia is asking, does your spine need a correction? Maybe that's what is blocked the energy flow around your body. This is a big answer, isn't it? Well, first of all, Tia, I don't know if you're like a professional with spine. So if you are, then maybe you could give your perspective on that. Or maybe if you have experience, that would be awesome. So I'm going to reread it. Does your spine need a correction? Comma, maybe that's what is blocking the energy flow around your body. Okay, so I'm not sure if you were here from the start or not. And it's also good because you have your perception as well of what you're tuning into now. But for me, my energy flow is way better now than it was when I had my injury. So I literally had a physical injury. it's not like my back went out because I was just walking and I did something, or like I had a like, I suppose it's kind of like called an impact injury. It's too complicated to explain here, but if you could relate it to something, it's like deadlifts, which in some ways people would say that's not impactful, but actually it is, because it's a compression. So it's like pushing something in and out, kind of like that. So kind of like a deadlift injury, but it wasn't a deadlift injury. And that's, lifting really heavy weights. So similar to that. So in my case, it's a disc. So this is such a big conversation. Like, I didn't come on here to just talk about spines, but personally, I'm not. So I'm a craniosacral therapist and somatic craniosacral therapist, somatic therapist, and also body massage therapist and loads of other things. And personally, I'm not really into big manipulations of the body. It's a sport. I'm a sports massage therapist and a healer. That's what I picked up from you. Thank you, sister. I think you're female. Your picture is small. Okay, so much going on. So I don't do big corrections. So besides my physical injury that I had, there was a mountain of other things going on. So it's not like a medical history of matcha right now. So I know my body along the way, and I also know what it's healed from, what it struggles with. And I have looked at along the way about having a spinal correction, and I have had some spinal corrections in my life that probably were perfect, but they were like with people that like were lineage taught this work, and I'm very, 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 very wary on who I use and who I work with my body. That's obviously why I've also been to a lot of osteopaths, chiropractors over the years, for other injuries. So at least it would be good for you to really alleviate the disc because you don't want to affect the rest of your spine. Yeah, it is. So go back to what Tia said. Pain comes from the nerve trapping. It does. So a release would be good for you to alleviate the disc because you don't want to affect the rest of your spine. Exactly. It is. The actually funny thing is the disc was bad, but because I wasn't moving, then I had, so this is what happens with serious injuries, and especially as you get older, and if you have any other injuries in your body, what'll happen is so my body wasn't moving for kind of 3 months, I would say. And because of that, I lost an extremely amount of muscle, and then that kind of led into another problem, and then therefore that led into other problems. So for me, my body gaining strength was like top priority, so that I could allow my body come into alignment again, because without the strength, so this is a big thing with spinal manipulation, if it's very physical, so craniosacral is spinal manipulation, but it is so microscopic, right? Like it's so micro. Subtle medicine, I think, is the best way to say it. And this is why I believe and know to be true with this work, because a good cranio or a really skilled one can work with a body that has been quite damaged and can not interfere in an as negative way as someone that could come along and do a manipulation, which does happen a lot with spinal injuries and spinal column displacements. So in this regard, my approach is all about going really soft and listening to the body, which is not everyone's thing, and it is not everyone's world, and a lot of people just go to a chiropractor. I'm going to read these. I see a chiropractor now because I knew I needed a correction. I head dropped downstairs 30 years ago. Head dropped down. So I resonate with what you're going through. I don't get what I head dropped downstairs 30 years ago, but you mean your head? You went like head first. Is that what you mean? Yeah, so just so we can really resonate with each other. So I've had concussions, flying through the air concussions, landing on my head. I've had lots of flying through the air, actually. I've had a lot of flying through the airs. I've had very, very heavy things landing on me. I've had a lot of injuries. I'm actually a bit of a walking miracle, to be honest. I was told that I would never be pain-free. I would never dance. I would never run. I would never live a proper life. And I have done so. I have completely done a million more things that I was told that I could never do. And that, I don't actually know. That could have been 15 years ago, to be honest, at this stage. It's probably 15 years ago. So, yeah, like, it is. And going back to you, Tia, like, with a chiropractor, it is, chiropractors today are starting to change. Like, a lot of them are becoming a lot more softer in their manipulation, and it can work. But the problem that I know to be true with chiropractors is you have to go every week. And because what happens with a chiropractic change is they change it and it bounces back. So I'm an equine craniosacral therapist as well. And so I've worked with really high level sport horses, lots of different things, like real bad cases, basically, that no one else, no veterinary, no chiropractic, no massage therapist, like they're like, I've done that with people as well, but it's way easier to kind of explain in the horse world because you've got these huge bodies, they don't have a voice. And you know, my practice with craniosacral has been able to transform their bodies in a very short space of time, and they would never need to come back to me again and live a very good life until X, Y, and Z happens, you know, if they have an injury again. So what happens with cranio is it's a very gentle manipulation that helps the body to, which isn't really manipulation, to be honest, because you're actually working with the body and the body actually moves itself. So with chiropractic, there is a listening to the body, but it is and you will go over there. And that just isn't, that just isn't my way, basically. I was going to do a cranial therapy course a few years ago. I was dropped off of someone's shoulders, 16 foot high, somersaulted. Oh yeah, I do. I have done acro, two highs and acrobatics. So I totally get you. 16 foot high somersault. My hip hit the banister and threw me over the side, and my head hit the wall first with my neck bend. Yeah, I really get that. I've seen shit happen, and I've experienced my own world of that as well. It's pretty hardcore, to be honest. And the the thing is that people don't understand. I don't know how old you are, but people don't understand that like we can kind of bounce back from these injuries with our, like yourself, probably going on the deeper into the healing path. But what happened is what happened is what? What happened is they knock on effect, they affect you for the rest of your life in some shape or form. Like my other injury in my back, which is now 15 years old, took 10 years to have no pain. 10 full years to have no pain. And I actually have no pain in that part of my back, except I have knock-on effects from like the whole other areas that were affected. So things can become a strain. So I'm just constantly looking after myself, basically. And I say to you, you're the same, because that's what happens. So I'm actually going to flip into something circus now, because that's actually why I came on here to talk about circus. So we'll like give our injuries a break, because I'm just like, they're heavy going. So this is why I'm here at this hour of the night, because I'm having an energy surge, which is really nice. Like it's really nice to feel a bit better, because it's when your body's healing, you're tired, your energy's low, because your body has to go, all the energy has to go there. And so I was thinking, so I was at a circus convention in 2019 in the UK. It's the International Circus Convention. So how these conventions work is people from all over the world come, international performers, local Joe Bobs that just started circus yesterday, all the ranges. There's stages, there's performances every night, there's workshops from all different master classes to everything. I always teach lots there. And a lot of people teach lots there. Some people just train 24/7. What else happens? Some people just go absolutely mental for the party. Some people play cards. Like there's thousands of people there. Like I'm gonna say like up to 5,000, something like that. And the ages range there's actually a load of kids that go as well, families, and then up to, I don't know who the oldest person is there. I'm gonna say 70. But obviously as the age gets older, I would definitely 60s, a good few 60s around. So I was at that convention in 2019, so they changed country every year, and it wasn't my first one. So I was there, and of course we're in the UK, and there's a storm in the middle of the summer, and I'm in Ireland, so it's not my country, but England can have bad weather. And there was this really bad storm. We all had to move our tents. It was a mess. But anyway, you stay in tents. It's kind of camping thing. But like we were in this it's kind of a bar. I wouldn't really call it a club, but like it can have live music. So there's only like one bar in the whole place. It's not like the main focus. The bar is not the main focus, but it's there for people that are interested. So we were just hanging out in the bar area. All my friends don't drink, don't take drugs. Like it's not really a drink and drug thing. Some people of course drink, but it's not really the focus. And of course there's a lot more Irish people often in the bar, which is totally fine. And so, yeah, as us Irish people, the non-drinkers were in the bar. So there was this big storm, like downpour of rain, like buckets of rain. And me and my friend, I won't mention her name, we're kind of a bit crazy, as we do be. And we were just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, this is absolutely amazing. And we were just like, okay, let's take all our clothes off. Like we were like, let's go run around in the rain. We were like, we're going to get all wet. So like, that doesn't work. So we were like, yeah, let's take all our clothes off. So absolutely everyone was in watching a show, because the show's on all the time. Lots big shows, small shows, huge shows. And so in the evenings. And so everyone was like locked in somewhere, staying dry. Like there was no one outside. It was about 9 o'clock in the evening. So, or maybe it was dark actually. So it was like 10 or 11, probably 11. And I was like, we were like, yeah, like let's just take our clothes off, I was totally naked and my friend had her knickers on. And so we had the best time running around in the water, which was like a swimming pool because somehow there was like a flooded zone. It was just amazing. We were just like running and running and running. And it was just like this really wild, amazing experience. I'm sure I've had other experiences like this, but this was just like this experience. It wasn't like we're gonna do this because we're gonna be seen or whatever, like, because no one was watching us, and like, yeah, so no one was watching us except our friends that had seen us take off our clothes, but they had seen us naked before. It's no big deal. So anyway, so we were running around, and then we were like, okay, we can't keep running because we're gonna get tired. Like, we're after training all day every day, like, so we're pretty exhausted. And then we were like, okay, so we were like, okay, let's, like, we felt like so amazing now. Like, we're after, like, you know, all our muscles are tired because we're just training all day, like, really hardcore amount of training, and probably not sleeping so well because we're intense. And, you know, people are up all different hours and whatever. And so we were like, okay. And then we were like walking around and we were like, let's go in and get dry. For some reason, the thought didn't go back to like, let's go put our clothes on, right? So we walked into this big, huge hall. Like, we're talking like the size of a basketball hall or even bigger. Like, it's like an airplane hall. I think they even park airplanes there. It's huge. And it's like bright, like, you know, you can imagine how it looks. And inside here is hundreds of people that are training circus, because this is what happens in circus conventions. People train 24 hours a day because drinking's not the focus, it's not the party. And so we walked in and we were like, oh, we've just walked in here. We were just kind of in this really funny space thing. And then we were like, okay. And then they were having, I can't even remember what they're called, but basically it's when they have an open stage in the middle of those places and people can come up and you can perform and you can get a shot of vodka or something else. I can't remember what the other things are. And then there's normally people just crowd around and just watch that show. And it can be like all types of things happen in those. They're pretty cool. A Renegade. It's been a while since I've been at a Renegade. So what happened was we walked up to the Renegade, and now it was the Dutch Renegade, I think. And they are like the most like PG Renegade, whereas the Irish Renegades are the most insane Renegades, because Irish people are just, I don't know, we just seem to be a little bit more adventurous or something. And what happened was we went up and we sat on the bench. Like, I don't even know what happened, actually. It was just hilarious. We sat on the bench. So first of all, like, everyone's just staring at us because they're like, there's two women naked, covered. Like, we were just letting a pool of water behind us because we were like dripping all our hair. Like, you know, we just came out of a shower, but worse. And so this was hilarious. So we sat down on the bench. And they were like, okay, do you want to perform? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, do you want a shot of vodka? I was like, I actually don't drink. And they couldn't believe that we weren't drinking. And then they were like, so what will you do is splits and we'll give you a shot of vodka? And I was like, I can do the splits. Okay, so I just went into the middle of the room, did splits naked, didn't touch my bits off the floor, of course, because that was like, and then I got up and I did drink the shot of vodka, which was even funnier because I don't drink, and it's probably absolute crap vodka. I can't remember that piece really either. And I just felt like it was part of the deal, you know? And so my other friend had started walking off and I just got up and left, and we just went back and put our clothes on, I think. Oh no, we went into another show, actually. We went into another show and we were going to jump on backstage. We were in backstage and we were just going to jump on the stage. But then we actually realized, no, we were actually chicken. Honestly, we were actually chicken. We were like, this is like gutsy brave. Like, this is a whole other level of brave. So we actually didn't do it. So, and we were in the back and we were like, will we do it? Will we do it? Like, this is so, and we were like, oh my God, this is terrifying. Because like, you're on stage, which means everyone's looking up into you, right? When you're naked, that's like, she had her knickers on. I was like, And there's like all these people that we know, like, because even though there's 5,000 people there, you know a lot of them from being around the circus community and on the scene. And you meet people along the way. So anyway, we left, we put our clothes on. That's the end of the story. So the moral of that story was there was no malice in it. There was no like, I'm going to get naked to prove I'm sexy, or I'm going to attract a man, or I'm going to anything. There was just nothing. There was just like, I'm taking my clothes off because this feels amazing. And then it was just funny. And then it was just like, oh wait, this, like, you know, oh yeah, I actually did something else. I did like, I'm actually not going to tell that part because that's just a little bit too much information. I'll never forget the guy's face. But like, so I basically did things that like you wouldn't call attractive at all. And like the whole point is that it was fucking hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Like, we'll never forget that. And that is not the first time I've been naked with this other woman. We have done lots of naked stuff together, to be honest, and really, really fun, nice things though. And what I'm trying to say is that we've always done them in the regard of just having the crack and just because we like being naked. And then that was in 2019, and then COVID came. Which kind of changed everything. It's like, it was so interesting. It was so interesting. And the kind of point of this is like kind of following on from the share that I was sharing earlier about we have this like huge movement of like liberation, like of naked women on social media, or you know, being like all like pleasure centric and erotic centric and tantric centric and everything. Now, I am all for this. I actually am all for this. And I have done many trainings, or I've been in many environments with this. And this is like often why also people come to me for my work. But there's like this big area that is kind of still really toxic. Like, I have some videos here that are kind of like a little bit... Tom, it's actually funny because you came on here. I don't know if you were at the circus convention, but this was about a circus convention that, I don't know if you were in the UK 2019 circus convention in the UK. This was talking about me and how the other person were naked at that one. Anyway, funny story. So what happened was I just feel like, there's not a feeling, there's a knowing that our bodies, if you want to be exposed, right? So I'm doing a workshop in January called The Somatic Exposed Witch. And being exposed means knowing how to protect yourself. So for example, me and that woman that were running around naked in the rain, having the best wild witchy time, obviously connected with the elements and being in our element, like, we were just being majestic. That's the word that just came. Like, we were just being majestic and primal about it. And we were just like, we are just having a best time. We knew that the bunch of people that were probably looking, actually, that's one thing about the circus community. They're so used to people doing crazy things, nakedism, like, they're not really bothered by another naked body. So there's kind of a liberal space that is less judged, and it's not like, oh my God, they're naked. Like, people will probably just laugh about it and not really talk about it. You know, it's like, it's that kind of space, which is so nice. And there's also another thing is, a lot of circus people are well used to touching people's bodies or being in body contact. Not everyone, of course, but there is a different sense of the knowledge, you know, because you have from dancers to jugglers to acrobatics to hoopers. So in some ways, there's some kind of sense of when you're in training spaces, you're used to people stretching their bodies, looking in weird places. It's just kind of like a more of a natural environment of being weird and being weird. being normal, if anything. So I found then, like, if we flip over to the sacred sexuality space and the more tantric space, what I find is there's this deep place of throwing kind of around the sexuality as a kind of a liberal tool, and a seduction tool. And when I come back to somatic exposed witch, is women, and this is for the men to listen to as well, like, right, like, women actually abuse and use their sexual power to manipulate many things, like not just other men bodies, but women bodies as well, or other genders. It's quite dangerous. And the shadow of that is to understand our when we're exposing ourselves, that we understand where we are in our healing, like where we are in our need of what we need to protect ourselves. Hey, Jordan. In what we need to protect ourselves in our woman sense. And that's why, like, the somatic exposed witch in this term, and what I'm trying to talk about earlier about the women's tantric pleasure training course that I'm going to be doing, is that, like, women understanding what's being exposed without being even said, and exposing yourself to things that then you have to remove. So I talked about that earlier. It's like why you have to remove from your womb space. So this is for the men body people to understand as well, like, you know, what they put on a woman, unfortunately, or what they bring to a woman. The woman, like, has to learn to reject if it doesn't feel fully received, and the woman has to learn how to protect themselves. Like, I don't love using the word protection, but I have to use the word protection because it's the kind of safeguarding. It's the knowledge of knowing. I was in this other environment, so another story. So I was going back to why am I telling stories? And I realized it is my tradition. Irish people, the bards, the traditional bards, told stories. We're storytellers. You know, we tell a story. We don't talk in straight English. So you say, like, are you going to the shop? And then you go, well, I need to go to the shop. You tell a whole story rather than saying yes. Like, it's kind of what we do. And I actually, I love that in some ways. It's not very efficient at times. But what's really good about it, it makes people more present, and it makes people slowing down. And what I see, a disease we have today, is called lack of presence and social media. Like, so when I do these lives, the amount of people that actually watch them is super low. And that's because people are, like, not interested in listening to me for 1 hour, which is totally fine. But it's just like, oh, I'm used to be on Instagram. I'm used to just, like, jumping in, jumping out. And I'm just like, yeah, good for you. But, like, actually sitting around to listen, I love listening. I love listening to people. I love listening. I love talking, but I love listening. I love being in conversation. It's my favorite. So what happened was, what was I on about? Telling the stories. So another story is, I was actually with, I kind of don't really want to say too much about the details because people pick up on who, what, where, when. But I was in an environment and it was orientated around an ayahuasca ceremony. And it was the next day after a ceremony. And I was sitting there and I noticed, I was with a woman that was quite, I suppose, I think the best word is, like, attractive or sexually attractive. And in the sense of, like, oozing Shakti in some shape or form. Like, whatever. It's probably the best way to say that because I can't, differentiate exactly which way, what way it was. But, like, just kind of like, yeah, anyway. And then what happened was there was a person there that I saw looking at the person, but not in this like, hi, how are you? But like looking at this person in this really like undressing way. So like we're all after a ceremony, and then this person was just like undressing this person in front of me, and I was just looking at it, and I was like, I fucking hate this, because I have had people do that to me. The woman was just uncomfortable. I could see that. Even though she was, quite an empowered woman in some ways or another. But like, what are you meant to do? Say, stop undressing me? It's like, it was just such a surreal moment, because I was like, how does he not know we know this is happening? Like, we know this is happening. She knows I know it's happening. I know it's I know it's happening. I think he actually knows I know it's happening. And it's just really weird. So like for me, this is another example of being exposed and being protected. So it doesn't fucking matter if you're in a workshop, if you're walking down the street, if you're with your partner, if you're in after a ceremony. As a woman, we have to be really aware that when we expose ourselves, we are unfortunately in this world lining ourselves up for an opening. So when we expose ourselves, we need to be very mindful. Okay, am I willing? It feels right. Okay, I'm going to do this exposure. Now the exposure could be a million different things. It could be like, there's loads of different things. It could be like a very physical, like typical sexual act, or it could be, expressing through a certain type of movement. It could be, singing a certain way. It could be being naked. It could be leaning over the fence with your cleavage. Like, there's a million different ways of being exposed. Or you could be exposed in just your position. Like, there's loads of ways. There's a lot going on there. But like, what I'm trying to say is that being exposed is in a place, and this is part of it, but there's loads of things with somatic exposed, which that this is only just like one fraction of this, but we're really talking with this kind of this protection of the womb space that we need to. There's a lot of people up tonight. It's funny when people accidentally want to be in your life. So be careful, because I might let you be in my life. So basically, being exposed and protecting that womb space means knowing what your womb says no to. And that's the part I'm seeing big problems at the moment, is that we have a lot of, so I've been in big rooms full of people like being quite liberal with their bodies, which is totally fine, and learning maybe, especially in a public space. Like, people can be liberal but at home, but not maybe in a room with other people or publicly around other people. So that's like a whole other thing. And that's that you're exposing yourself to the space, to the energies, to judgment, no judgment, like all the things. So how to protect that space is kind of a lot of what I was speaking about a little bit earlier in my share, is that when a woman takes on the stuff from a man, takes on their trauma, so that it has a scarring on the womb, it has a harder time to express itself, right? So this goes for any trauma. We're talking to you earlier around injuries in the body, healing. So like, we really have to take time to recover from those injuries. And what the womb needs is, it needs time. It's a big one. It needs time. And what I can see now is this real urgency. I'm going to have a drink. the real urgency of women needing to be exposed, but for the wrong reasons. And I'm going to touch on the platform OnlyFans here. I don't want to say that again, so hopefully just pick that up. I know, and we all know, I'm sure loads of people use that platform, and that platform is a great example of women exposing themselves to gain income, which in a lot of cases have helped people go through medical school, through college, whatever it is, to feed their kids, you know. But the reality is, if they had choice and if someone else gave them the X amount of money or more, would they still be on OnlyFans? In most cases, no. Maybe we wouldn't even have that platform. There's obviously some people that just love that job. that's their thing. That's okay. But in most cases, it's a need to survive. So when we come back from that place, right? Like we come back from that place of selling the physical form for something to have a game, we're kind of playing the game of patriarchy. We are playing the game of patriarchy. We are now, as a woman, more in control because the man has to pay the woman. Definitely way better. I often think about that. I'm like, I kind of posted like a half naked picture on my social media. I really shouldn't. I should put it on OnlyFans and get people to pay for it. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of my thought process sometimes. And then I'm like, whatever. So not that I think that people paying for something is wrong, because people pay for things, for everything. They pay for their food, they pay for, you know what I mean? Like we don't have this exchange the way we used to. So like we used to have, you know, I have to be wary of how much Instagram's gonna like, you know, shut down this, because I'm gonna want to say a lot of things. Instagram doesn't even work because I have to like watch everything. So annoying. You know, we had temple goddesses that worked for an exchange of money, you know, and they brought the healing. And this is an art form that was, I don't really know, like it was there when humanity got into societal type of world, right? We didn't have it in caveman times, but in caveman times we have something else. So like, you know, we just had a caveman that had multiple wives, you know, whatever. But like, they didn't even have wives. They just had mates or whatever, childbearing people. I kind of talking with them like they were less civilized than us, but they were really not. They were probably way more intelligent in so many ways. So, interesting. So anyway, coming back from that, is that what I'm trying to say is that we have to look at the reality of the balance of payment in exchange for the woman's body. And this is how social media has fallen into it. And I'm going to share this because it's really, it falls heavy on my heart that there's so many. So I'm around in the tantric space, the conscious sexuality space, for over 10 years publicly. I'm going to throw it into 15 years. I do that all the time because I can never really count the years at this stage. But like, you know, I've seen a lot. I've been around a lot. I know a lot of people. And some of it really upsets me because you know that it's this kind of like trending thing, and it's this kind of like thing that I'm like, like I wanna like take all those women and put them in a temple together and take care of them, you know, like it's like my mommy sense comes forward, because in some ways it's lovely. It's beautiful. Like, I can appreciate it from my distance, like, oh, that's lovely and beautiful, or in my closer relationships, that's lovely and beautiful. But on the deeper knowing, I'm knowing there's so many men-bodied people and women-bodied, like in general gender, that are abusing that factor. And it's been done to me. That you could be listening to this and you might be one of those people. Like, I am not afraid to talk about it. And what has been done is that, like, where people are leering on you, because you're exposing yourself to that as a public form. Like, and this is a really good one for all the women out there, or men to think about it, or gender neutral. Would you walk through your local supermarket? Would you walk through your local supermarket butt naked, or touching yourself in a masturbation type of way? Really not sure Instagram's going to deal with all my talk here today. Or doing some really intense lap dance, right? For example, would you do that? Would you do that for, I'm going to say 5 minutes on a very busy day and then leave? What would be the response? Would you do it? So why do we do those things in social media platforms? This is a good way to start thinking about it. If I've never transactionally paid for sex, online or offline, am I treating women like fairly by not playing the patriarchy game in their favor? Am I treating women like fairly by not playing the patriarchy game in their favor? Treating them unfairly. Okay, by not playing the patriarchy game in their favor. God, this is a big question, Jordan. I've never just actually paid for sex, online or offline. Am I treating women like unfairly by not playing the patriarchy game in their favor? No. You're helping it change, Jordan. You're helping it change. You are the change we want to see in the world. Because that's what we need. Like, I do think there is the aspect of putting money into the hands of women, but like a lot of women would. So a lot of women that really love to be in their sexual self as their work, right? Like, they feckin' love it. Like, it's just what they do. It's just what they want to do. It's their divine calling. This person will get paid. And there's nothing wrong with anyone paying them, because that is what they desire. That's what their calling in this time is. It is absolutely perfect. But this is a very low % of the population. Like, there's a lot of women that would love to do that, and that is their deeper desire calling, but they are terrified of ever stepping into that. Like, terrified. So you have to remember there's so many waves in this. And then you have, I have my snoring dog here next to me. You have all the women in between that are doing it because they just need to survive, or they're just trying to get attention, or they just have daddy issues, or they just have, I hate actually kind of saying that when daddy issues, but it's true. It's fucking out there. Like, it's there's all the different problems. And then we have all the pimped people. Like, in reality, we do have all the pimped women that are pretending not to be pimped because they are terrified of dying, like, or their children, like, this is, it gets really dark and deep. So, like, if you don't pay those people, I think I would bring this question back to you, is that, have you felt like you've wanted to do that? And I think it depends on the context. Like, did you want to do it in a back alley? Did you, did you want to do it in a VIP place? Did you want to do a tantric massage? Did you want to, there's a million different ways of how we can pay, OnlyFans, pay for something. did you want to at one point feel like you just want to pay, like maybe you're in Amsterdam with your friends, whatever it is, or even your partner, like, that's very common as well, and you didn't do it because you were like, that kind of shame of like paying was a bad thing, or that kind of aspect of knowing this is wrong as a bigger collective. And I kind of get that as well, like, because I can definitely fall into that category, like, and I think that place is a really interesting line to ask yourself, actually. It is really interesting line to ask yourself, like, did I not want to pay because it was bad, it was guilt, the Catholic Church or whatever church you're part of, like, like what was the background noise in there? That can be, that for me, that's where I would go with that question, actually, because it depends on who you're paying. If you were not going to pay and it was going to be unfair to them, right? Like, maybe there was someone like was like, I love my job and I can't get a client, and if more people paid me, I'd be more satisfied. Like, there is people out there like that as well, so it's a huge conversation. I feel like it's so big, and that's where I feel like, for me, it's when people genuinely know their place and they're coming from this empowered womb. Like, that's a different type of place than the women that are stepping forward into those roles because they find it a trend, or they find that they get attention for it. Like, you do get attention. If you are half naked on social media, you get more attention. If you act more sexy, you get more attention. If you that's why sex sells. That's why they say that word. Like, it's like, so I used to work in a nightclub years ago when I was younger, and I was working nightclubs in lots of different roles, like behind the bar and at the tills, yada 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 yada. And one time for quite a while actually, I was doing kind of the PR management-y kind of role of a bunch of women. And like, the reality is, the women that would come forward for those jobs were like really, sex sells, and I didn't employ all those women. In most cases, I would manage them, and the manager, which is actually kind of funny now that I think about it. Were we still going out? I think we were going out together at that time. Was my partner, and they would employ them, and like, in the reality, it's sad because, like, we should have all shapes and sizes promoting something, to attract everyone. But what was happening is there was like this, you put this kind of class of style, I don't know how to call that, like a type of woman, in front of men to lure them into the nightclub, and then other women will follow. Doesn't really matter about the women. Like, we're attracting men into the club, and it was kind of weird. Like, in some ways, thinking about it, like, at times it was fun, but it did have that leery, we're selling something. And of course, there was loads of really nice women as well that would just be like, yeah, cool. Like, we were all really lovely people, advertising the nightclub, So, but there was this sense, like, me and my partner would have that conversation. He would say sex sells, he would say that simple sentence. And, like, I'm talking like 20 years ago kind of thing. So, and I was always eye roll at that, actually, and just be like, like, of course, and it's just cringy because it's still the truth today, and that's why you'll hear me say it, because Pat Cora said shava shava. So, if there's any questions, I am well able to take some questions at this time, and or feedback in that. And as always, when I close down the room, I was going to call it a room, when I close down the space and you do listen to this, reach out to me. It'll be on YouTube as well. Reach out to me and let me know any questions or conversations, or I really appreciate them. It feels like someone listened to me and they didn't. I actually, as I said at the start, I actually really enjoy doing these whenever I feel like it. For me to come on and be like, I am doing a live about this, and it just doesn't work. It's just not how I function. It's my ADHD. I just need to do things when it feels right. And it feels right now. So, I'm trying to think to cover everything that I was going to cover. I told some funny stories about being naked. I have actually a lot of stories. I'm misty. I know you're trying to say I'm listening, Jordan, but you said I'm misty. It sounds funnier. Oh God. I'm like, maybe you could come up and talk about this live. Maybe that's a bit brash. I remember one time I was on this live with someone, and they were someone that I followed for a while. I had gone to their retreats. I really love them. What they do, I can't even remember his name right now. I'm terrible at remembering people, even I like his name. And I was on his live, and then there was only one or two. It was late, probably late in his evening. It was around this time. He was in America, and he turned around and he's like, "Hey Matcha, do you want to come to the live with me?" And I was like, "I'm in my PJs." I was like, "I'm in my PJs." I was like, "I can't come on." I was like, I got shell shock. It was really funny. And then it was really funny because I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go on, because I don't care if I'm in my PJs. But it was just this immediate, I wasn't expecting that. Because it was late for me. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was funny because then my phone went off and I was like, shit, I was going to go on, but I missed the opportunity. It was funny. But it brought stuff for me, actually. It was really good. It was a really good experience in some weird ways. Yeah. So, I remember his name now. It's Shrikala, for anyone that knows him. So I talked about wombs, the somatic exposed witch, obviously for women, but it's something to think about from the opposite perspective of the mystical woman, and the mystical witch, and it's not just the sacred sexual self, but when we actually start exposing our mystical selves, that also it can repel people, actually, which is great. I love that. I fucking love that. And yeah, it's so funny. You can repel people with that, and the other thing is that you're very exposed. You're more exposed, and you have to be really connected with your divine Kundalini, your Shakti, to be truly in your power as a person. And you have to be able to know how to hold that and lose it as well. None of my knowledge in me, it might seem like I forget it because my head doesn't hold facts very well, but all my knowledge is in there. So if it comes back to me, if I see it in front of me, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. It's I know it, it's in there. Sometimes I forget that I know it, but I do know most things. And that I know. That sounds hilarious. And what what happens is when we lose our kind of bliss energy, your knowledge and your knowing is still in there. And that has happened to me at times, like where I have lost. So for example, when I've had this injury, which we were talking about earlier, like my capacity to have a lot of energy flow in myself, or have such a strong alignment or like power in my being, was less. Like it's kind of natural, because like if you fall in a community, like if you think of like a wild pack, the others will try to protect you if they can. And if you don't, it's kind of like that in humans as well. It's like when you fall, your community is meant to hold you, support you, feed you, because you can't hunt. That's why people come and bring you soup. It's like that's kind of the way it could or should be. Unfortunately, not for most. And then what happens is, but if you've connected to it, which realistically through birth you have connected with it, like it's an infinite connection that's always possible. And what we start doing is we start losing it as we go through society, and for lots of reasons. It's a whole lot of conversation. But you can cultivate it, reclaim it, nurture it, bring it back. And you just noticing those waves. Yeah, noticing those waves. Yeah. Anything else? I'd love to know, actually, Jordan, for the response that I gave you for that question, because it was a pretty loaded question. If you did have a response, you can DM me later as well. That's very welcome. And I know you might be like, I'm not meant to be typing right now. Yeah. Stillness. Okay, I always finish these with a little song, so I'm gonna do that. I didn't feel like doing a little song, but I'm gonna do a little song, and it could be a bit ridiculous. And I think that's probably why I'm like, I'm not really feeling for doing a song, because sometimes I can be like way too joyish. I mean, that kind of like joy, a funny way. And when like the Heyoka energy is very much my I'm getting my old creepy skin here, man. Get my old creepy skin. Very funny kind of Heyoka type of messer, which is divine, but it often isn't the energy that people want to hear me singing in. So, yeah, I am really praying to God that I'm going to sleep after this, because I really don't like having these energy surges. Because I need to obviously get up in the morning, and I love it. My battery just said it's going low. Jordan said it's a complicated subject. It is a complicated subject. It's very complicated. It's a huge one, and it's one to think about, and it's a really good question. I love questions like that, because they make me think really deeply. I think they make other people think deeply. And just to come into it, I remember when I was a teenager, when I was a teenager, I was already in nightclubs, okay? Long before that I was legal to be in a nightclub. Like, I was one of those people. And I was doing everything. So what happened, I had friends. Did I? I had friends. And male friends. I hung out with a lot of guys and girls. I know, like, not everyone really did that, I suppose, but like I always had like a girl gang and a guy gang. We had gangs. And so I hanged out with gangs, right? I don't know what everyone called those. We kind of have, yeah, interesting. Anyway, and as we were kind of getting a bit older, like that came as a big thing in Ireland. Like, that the guys would be like, yeah, I'm getting a hooker. And I remember being like, God, this is so weird. And, I was a teenager, and it was kind of like a cool thing. which is very strange. It was very strange. And I remember one of my friends talking about it to me. I had a lot of different conversations with men with it around over the years. I actually haven't heard other women talking about their conversations with men around it. Again, I was very liberal in my conversations. And I didn't have a lot of judgment for them, but what I did have, those who were paying for something like that, because in most cases, they were doing it out of kind of coolness or trend, and it kind of is the flip to what I'm talking about here. So that's really interesting. So it's kind of like, okay, so actually I was talking, that's a really good way to sum up this conversation. So the trend is, I was talking about how the women are like exploiting themselves, realistically, that's the word, and how the men, but in a spiritual way, and then the men, paying for exploited women, which is quite interesting because one feeds the other. Fascinating. Quite fascinating. Anyway, and when I was younger, these guys would be like, I remember one of them was so nice. We were very good friends, and he was like, yeah, like you just, you would do it, but like you wouldn't have sex with them, you just hang out with them. And he'd be like, okay. So, or other people would tell me that over the years, even later when I was in my 20s, that they'd be like, yeah, I just, pay for them to hang out with me. And I'd be like, why don't you just get a girlfriend? Which is quite interesting, right? Like that is quite interesting. But some men just really liked the separation, that they could just not be, not have to deal with a girlfriend, or there's loads of reasons for this. This is a whole other conversation. So it's complicated. There's a lot there, and I feel like I've spoke a lot of holes. Yeah, more complicated than you can type out. Exactly, especially on Instagram. And then a lot of typos. I've done that many times, so I appreciate it. And you're being exposed. You're being exposed here. So anyway, we're going to leave it because this is like, I'm like, digging a hole of conversation here with this. So people can come back to me with conversations around it. I'm going to sing a song. I don't know what's going to be. My voice is getting nice and husky now. It's good. And my drum is a little bit dry, so it's making a bit of noise, but we can see how it goes. I know why actually is because when I was like, oh yeah, it's like we've been talking about such a kind of loaded conversation. Very triggering for a lot of people actually. Conversation I can have very openly in myself or with others, but in most cases they can't. So I can have these conversations with my partner, friends, family somewhat, random people, random Instagram people. So giving gratitude for the women that are out there being liberal, but being in their power, and giving space for the women that are trying to find liberation, trying to find power. And for all the man-bodied people that are really trying to understand the women's needs, trying to serve, honor, respect, but also receive what they need. And for all genders, So in your translation, for all non-gendered people, making all respected, intelligent, emotionally wild intelligence, the primal intelligence, yet a conscious, consensual one. So that's less trauma, more healing. Yeah. Ooh, hey, yo. Ooh, hey, yo. Ooh, hey, yo. Ooh, hey. Ooh, 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 hey, yeah. Ooh, hey, ooh, hey, ooh, hey, hey, yeah. Ooh, hey, yo. Ooh, hey, yo. Ooh, hey, yo. Oh, yeah. Ooh, 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 ooh. Remembering our innocent selves. Yeah. If anyone can take anything away from this evening, is to return to our innocent selves, to return to play, and allow ourselves to be our true nature in our true conscious being. Easier said than done. Yeah. Thank you, Jordan. He said you're fabulous. You're fabulous as well. I'm going to go. Thank you for listening. Thank you for those who are going to listen. I always feel these shares land with like the odd person so deeply. I'm forever grateful for those people that go out of their way and write me a message and they're like, oh my God, or like, yes, or whatever it was. I needed that. Yeah. It can be a lonely world sometimes out in these Instagram random platforms that are just nonsense in some shape or form. It would be much better if we were all in a room together. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. And I will see more of you again soon. And Slánta, have a good evening, good morning, good day. I'm going to try to sleep now, and my eyes are definitely getting closer to closing. Much love to you, Jordan. And for those who that were here and that left and came and had a conversation and left, thank you. And I will see you in the next moon and sun type. I have a really interesting moon and sun talk these days. Big hugs and loves. Slánta. Perhaps one day in person. Aho. Sinead.